Around the world, there are an estimated 40 to 42 million prostitutes, even though a majority of the world's nations ban sex work. Many become sex workers as a result of economic struggle and poverty. The need for the legalization of prostitution comes in order to protect sex workers from exploitation from pimps and madams, also known as procurers. It is also needed to protect against abuse from clients and sexually transmitted infections. Some procurers often steal or coerce women and children into working for them, but this is only possible because women cannot work independently as sex workers without the fear of being punished by law. Pimps and madams have to keep the industry underground by claiming their workers as their girlfriends. They have sex workers in their power because the workers cannot find an alternative to help. Because of this, many compare sex work to human trafficking, but they are not the same. Many choose to freely engage in sex work, while human trafficking is a gross abuse of human rights. Treating sex work as if it is the same as sex trafficking ignores both the realities of sex work and endangers those who engage in it. Although the goal of decriminalizing prostitution is to improve sex working conditions, it is impossible for sex workers to have any self-organization because sex work is regarded as simply another form of slavery. Thus, authorities and laws which are trying to stop the true form of slavery end up penalizing the sex worker industry. Law enforcement raids in the United States and abroad have had little success in identifying trafficked persons. Instead, it has driven sex work deeper underground. Thus, sex workers have to depend more heavily on procurers. Clients of sex workers are just as bad. Out of the approximately 42 million sex workers around the world, 75% are raped at work, and over 90% experience some form of physical abuse. Everyone knows prostitution is illegal, so if someone wants to victimize a sex worker who can't go to the cops, it's perfect. By legalizing prostitution, sex workers have the ability to legally hold clients accountable for their heinous acts of violence. Decriminalizing prostitution will give sex workers free access to health care, thus eliminating high rates of HIV and AIDS. In Nevada, where prostitution is only allowed in licensed brothels, workers are given monthly tests for syphilis and HIV and are tested weekly for gonorrhea and chlamydia. The state also requires condoms for all sex in brothels. This allows women to always use a condom whether or not a client prefers it. By making sex work a crime, prostitutes are driven underground and are less likely to practice safe sex and get regularly tested for STIs. In April 2012, a study conducted by the Urban Justice Center found that police officers in New York City were using condoms found on women as evidence of prostitution. There is no excuse to prevent or penalize women for making smart choices that benefit their health, even if they are sex workers. At the most basic level, the decriminalization of prostitution comes down to how one interprets preserving and protecting human rights. While there are cases in which people are forced into sex work and human trafficking are not the same thing. It is still very possible to criminalize human trafficking while legalizing sex work. There are a significant number of people who choose to freely engage in prostitution because it's the best way for them to make ends meet. Thus, they need to have the full support of the government. The debate around legalizing prostitution should not revolve around whether it's moral to get paid for sex, but rather is it moral to ensure all workers are protected by the government. The increased risk of abuse from procurers, clients, and health-related issues can be fixed by simply legalizing the prostitution industry.